Okay. All right, so it looks like we've got a good number of people in here, almost 60 people in here. I'm going to go ahead and start us off with some questions that have been sent in. Y'all do let me know if there's any troubles with the sound, because I don't want this to sound like crap. I should have the sound fixed. And I apologize that we're not outside. I was set up on the porch, and then my neighbors decided they were going to mow and chainsaw firewood this afternoon. So they're out there making a bunch of noise right now. So I had to bring the whole setup inside. So I tried to make it as cozy as possible here. Okay, so Ward says, I was wondering how you get your Luscombe to sound, that's this banjo, how you get your Luscombe to sound so bright and sharp, even with nylon strings. It sounds great. I'm trying to emulate that tone on an S.S. Stewart student banjo I recently acquired. So Ward, so funny that you asked that. Really what does a lot of that with nylon strings is the bridge that I'm using. The bridges that I use now are made by Joel Hooks. And this is a copy of a Morley bridge. Come on, camera. Freaked my camera out. Uh-oh. I'll show you. Joel just actually sent me more of these. So he makes these really good historical bridges for the banjo. So if you want to check out Joel's bridges, I think they're the best. They're the best bridges for what we do. Trying to get this camera to focus again. There we go. Had to trick my camera. So for the best bridges for nylon or gut string playing, you want to look up Joel Hooks. His website is called banjothimble.com. banjothimble.com. The other thing you need to do is really the most important thing is the neck angle issue. If you see, this banjo has close to zero neck angle, almost zero angle to the neck. And so that means on modern banjos, even old time banjos, they angle the neck back like this, usually about 2 degrees. And they never really did that before the 1930s. So if you're playing an antique banjo that was made before 1930, you do not want to have a luthier change the angle of the neck to where it's back. It needs to be flat. It needs to be 0 degrees ideally, or close to it. This one is warped a little bit over the years. I think it's real close to 0. It may be like a ½ degree back, and so I'm not entirely sure. But you want your neck angle to be close to 0 if you want to play real old-time traditional banjo, and not, you know, not like modern old-time. And as you can see, makes a very bright, crisp, plucky sound, which is how these banjos are supposed to sound. Okay, everybody. Okay, we got Nick gave us $4.99, says glad to see you back up here. Misty gave us $4.99 and just put a party horn on there. Hell yeah, Misty, good to see you. Let me just scan through, see what everybody's saying. So Beer Crawler says he's trying to learn German War. German War is a tricky one to learn. I think I do have a lesson video up for German War, and I think so. If not, I need to do that, because I could teach a simplified version. I think I've done that. I haven't done a tab for it yet. That's one of many that I need to transpose in tablature. Todd says hello from Southern Kentucky. Kenneth is asking me to do a video on Shady Grove. Shady Grove is a great song, and one I don't play that much, and I should. It's a great old song. I should do that. I wish I didn't. I don't have a pen and paper with me right now. I need to be taking notes. But Shady Grove is one I need to do. Tanner says he wants to hear more Doc Boggs. You definitely will from me. I haven't even scratched the surface on Doc Boggs. I've got, especially when I was a kid, there was many Doc Boggs songs that I sang and played that I haven't played in years, and I really would like to revisit those, Tanner. So don't worry, you're going to see more Doc Boggs out of me for sure. And then we've got other people in the chat are telling me that the sound is good, so that's great. That's a relief. It really, the last time the sound sucked, y'all, because I had it on the wrong setting, and it was really just a matter of me moving the knob one notch over to get it to where music will sound good. I see we've got 77 people in the chat right now. That's awesome. I'm glad to have y'all here. It'd be great if we could get 77 thumbs up, because the more thumbs up this thing gets, the more people will come in and the crazier this will get. And I like it when it gets crazy in here. Not too crazy, but a little crazy is good, right? John says, yeah, one-piece bridges are essential for nylon strings. That is correct, John. You need the, I'm not going to go up to the camera again because I don't want it to go out of focus, but you need a solid, and maple is the best. Solid maple bridge, and you see how skinny these old-timey bridges are. Traditionally, the banjo bridge was very thin and not very tall. This is, I believe this is a 5/8 bridge, which is pushing it, which is a little tall for real old-time banjo. Traditionally, really, you would have had really just a 1/2-inch bridge most of the time. Okay, so Christian asks, can you play anything besides banjo? I can play a little bit of guitar, Christian. People ask me that from time to time. I was just playing guitar the other day. I love the guitar. I like to play it. But I actually sold y'all have probably seen my real nice 1940s archtop guitar that I had for many years. I've done some recordings with it and some films. Beautiful guitar. And I recently sold that guitar to a friend. So right now, the only guitar I have is a 1920s Cincinnatus, you know, flat top guitar that I don't really care for. It's a decent guitar, but I'm trying to sell it because it's not really for me. Oh, and I have another guitar somewhere. I have a 1960s Harmony that George Gibson gave me as a gift. I've got that over there. But I need to put new strings on it. So basically, long story short, Christian, my main instrument is this here 5-string banjo. And when I do play the guitar, I like to run a skinny 6-string on there, and I'll tune it to open tuning, like D-A-D, G-A-D, or maybe any other tuning that Roscoe Holcomb used, for example, on guitar. You should look that up, Christian, if you are a guitar player. Anyhow, when I do play guitar, I tend to string it up and tune it like a banjo, and I finger pick it like it's a 6-string banjo anyhow. So I don't really want what I really want is a 6-string banjo. That would be cool. Okay. Oh, the camera's focusing on this microphone. See if I can push it back. Maybe get it to focus on me again. Can you all still hear me with the mic pushed far back? I was trying to get the mic in the shot so it would look like we're a little more professional, but I guess it didn't work. Well, 85 people. It's great to have y'all in here. This is a blast. I'm just going to go through some of these. Oh boy, I'm getting backed up. Ward says he just ordered the Converse bridge from Joel Hooks. That's this bridge. This is a tall, I believe this is a 1860s, a late 1860s bridge that Joel makes, the Converse bridge. That's a good tall bridge for minstrel banjo, or for you guys who have a modern banjo. Like if you have a Pisgah banjo, I'm not trying to trash Pisgah, y'all. That's not what I'm trying to do. But if you have a modern Pisgah banjo, an old time banjo, Patrick puts neck angle in those banjos because that's what people want today. They play with steel strings. They want a low action. So Patrick Sawyer, the owner and designer of those, he does put a significant amount of neck angle in the Pisgah banjos. And if you have that, you can't use this 1/2-inch bridge, the traditional bridge. You've got to go to these earlier, like the minstrel bridges often were tall because they had things weren't standardized yet in the minstrel period before about 1880, and they hadn't quite perfected it. So you can get these historic bridges that are tall. These are I'm not sure, these are maybe 11/16 or something, and you could use this on a Pisgah banjo or a modern bluegrass banjo with a lot of neck angle And if you want to put nylon strings on it, but just go to Joel Hooks' website, go to banjothimble.com and shop around. He has a wide selection, and Joel will actually respond to you. And I'm going to try to adjust this camera. Joel will actually respond to you, not that much, and work with you to get you a bridge that'll work for what you're doing. Okay, we're going to scoot back up, look at more questions here. Blaine says he made it back from Virginia. What were you doing up in Virginia, Blaine? You said you was on a chicken farm. What were you doing? Aren't you like an engineer or something? I'm just curious. You don't have to tell me. Oh boy, 93 people in here. That's awesome. If everybody could give us a thumbs up, if we could get 93 thumbs up in here, that'd be awesome. That would just bring more friends in. Woot says we got a big party going on here. We must be breaking social distancing guidelines. Yeah, how would y'all like it if I had me a diaper on my face right now for my live stream? Would that be cool? Okay, so Michael says hi from Portugal. That's cool. I've never been to Portugal, Michael. He says he's been playing for 4 months, but he cannot get the hang of Clawhammer. So, Michael, I mean, Clawhammer is very hard to learn. What we call it the overhand style, the way I was raised up in the tradition. And it's overhand because your hand is over your fingers and you play overhanded. It's very difficult to learn how to do that. I honestly think it's a lot easier to learn 2-finger picking first. And when I play 2-finger, I plant 3 fingers on the head, and then I just pluck with these 2 fingers. It's a lot easier to learn that. But Michael, I can do a shameless plug of my own work. You can search on YouTube for my video, Clifton Hicks, and Intro to Clawhammer Banjo for the complete beginner. And then I have Intro to 2-finger banjo for the complete beginner. So look up those 2 videos and comment, comment and contact me. I'll talk with you and I'll work with you, Michael. So Brendan says, Clifton, how do you feel about half fretless banjos, and how hard would it be to convert a fretted banjo to a fretless or a half fretless? I think that's cool. I don't mind that. Like you mean where it's generally a half fretless banjo has no frets from 0 to 5th fret position, and then it starts being fretted again down here somewhere. So what you get is where it's easy to do the fingering up here. You have no frets, so you can get those cool fretless slides. But up here, if you want to do fancy finger work, then you have frets to do work up there. I think that's cool. I mean, it's not really something that was done traditionally, right? And there's like tall tales about, oh, these old timers used to pull the frets out and stuff. I don't know, maybe they did. I'm not so sure if they did or not, but I think frets wore out and then people pulled them. But yeah, I think go ahead and do it if you want to do it. What's really cool and what is sort of traditional is people would slap a piece of sheet metal up here. I think that's cool. And to my thoughts on converting a fretted banjo, if you have an antique banjo that came from the factory or from the maker with frets on it, like this one, I would not convert it to fretless unless it was like a real cheap beater antique, like a low-end Stewart or a cheap catalog Buckbee or a Sears and Roebuck. Then nobody cares. But if you have like a nice Luscombe or something, or a higher end Stewart, or really any other like a fancier banjo and it's fretted, I would not do that, just because it's kind of, these fancier banjos were meant to be fully fretted, and people played them all the way up here, so I would not do that. But if it's a modern banjo, like if you have a Deering Goodtime or a Recording King or something, by all means pull those frets out. It's not really, it is something that you can teach yourself to do, and with a few basic tools you could do it yourself if you're handy like that. But really you probably want to take that to a luthier and get that done. Okay, Brendan, we're going to move on down the line here. So Heron is asking, what's the difference between modern old time and a traditional old time banjo? So mainly, Heron, the main difference, there's a lot, like I think of a few, but the main structural difference, Heron, is that this is a real antique old time banjo from 1890, and it has no neck angle. You see how the neck and the head are one flat plane. On a modern banjo, and Heron, I think you have a Deering Good Time, I think. Heron's one of my new students. He's a real good banjo player. He hasn't been playing for that long. I think you have a Good Time, Heron, and so on that Good Time, the neck is angled back quite a bit, at least 2 degrees, and that is really like a bluegrass banjo. That did not come in until the 30s, and it came maybe the 20s at the earliest, but it came in on tenor banjos, 4-string banjos. And it did not become the standard for 5-string banjos really until after World War II, I want to say. As you had before World War II, you had Gibson and Kay were coming out with angled necked 5-string banjos, but they were not the norm, and they did not become industry standard until Earl Scruggs appeared and blew up right after World War II. I want to say that was 1947. So starting in the late 40s is when all the manufacturers started making 5-string banjos for bluegrass, for Scruggs style, and they all put neck angle in them. So any banjo that was made like after 1940-ish or 1950 is going to be angled and designed for steel strings. Any banjo that's made before 1930 is going to be flat and designed for gut and nylon strings. So that's the main difference, Heron, and it is a big deal when you get into this. If you play for long enough, and if you want to get into nylon strings, the nylons do sound best on a flat 0-degree neck. On the angled necks, the nylons are not optimal. Oh, we're cruising on down the line. Toledo says, Clifton, have you ever used or have an opinion on solid bone as the material for a bridge? I have not used that. It probably would be fine. I don't see why not, because solid bone is really the best material for a nut. This nut works fine too, but solid bone is great for nuts. It'd probably be great for a bridge as well. I don't see why not. Probably what you're going to get though with that is a really maybe an overly bright sound from your bridge, and I mean just. It's for no, it's not for nothing that they use these solid maple on these old-timey bridges, because the hard rock maple from the northeastern United States generally is really the best material. People have searched high and low for material for bridges, and the one that everybody keeps coming back to is that hard rock maple. But you could try making a bone bridge. Okay, Blaine gave us $5, and he said he made it back from Independence, Virginia. Oh boy. He said he made it back from Independence. Oh, I've lost that question. I'm getting way behind, y'all. I'm sorry. He said he made it back from Independence and just in time for the live stream. He just wanted to spend a weekend away from society. And the electric is fantastic, by the way. Oh, you just got a Fairbanks electric? Yeah, those are cool, man. You all should look up the Fairbanks electric banjo if you're not familiar with them. They're not actually electric. It's just the name of the tone ring. Came out 1890 something, early 1900s. So Blaine just got him an electric tone ring banjo. That's pretty nice. So Nick gave us $5, and he says, what is the relevance of the tenor banjo like you see in Irish music to the 5-string banjo that we have here in America? So Nick, I mean, obviously the 5-string banjo came, it's confusing because there were 4-string banjos going back to the 1700s, possibly even the 1600s, 1500s, we don't know, but they always had the short thumb string. That's what always made a banjo. When they come up with the tenor banjo, they dropped the thumb string and shortened the whole thing, and that is what was introduced to Ireland probably around the time of World War I. I'm not entirely sure, and it blew up. They loved it for whatever reason. It fit into what they were doing in Ireland at the time, and it became the Irish banjo, the Irish tenor banjo. And those banjos became so popular and so iconic that, for example, when I was growing up in the late 1980s, early 1990s, we were so ignorant about banjo history and so little research had been done that I was actually told on more than one occasion by people who are not stupid that the banjo came from Ireland. That's what people actually thought. We had no idea that it came from Africa. As recently as the 80s, as recently as the 90s, most people had no idea about that it came from, Africa and or the Caribbean and the South, and really America is where it was really developed. But people actually thought that the banjo came from Ireland, which is not true, right? But so the relevance to it, I mean, it's really not terribly relevant to what we do over here because, or at least to what I do, what we are doing in this live streams. What we do focuses on basically pre 20th century music. And the Irish tenor banjo, as far as I know, is very much a 20th century folk instrument. Richard asks, what is the spacing on my bridge? Is it standard? No, this is slightly wider than standard spacing. I think it's probably close to what they call crow spacing. If you want to get a modern bluegrass bridge that has wider spacing, get a J.D. Crow bridge. They call it crow spacing. It's a little bit wider than standard spacing. I don't like standard spacing, especially for new banjoists, people who are learning. It's much easier for them to learn on a bridge with wider spacing. So this is, I'm not sure exactly, it's not standard, but it's a little bit wider than standard. I have another bridge from Joel Hooks here. This smaller bridge here is a Gibbs bridge. And this bridge has actually spacing that is narrower than standard because some people preferred that. Mostly for fast finger picking, people prefer a narrower spacing. I don't like it. But that's something you can look if you go on Joel Hooks' website, banjothimble.com. You can shop around and you can get different spacing on bridges. So Ben says, how many hours a day roughly do you work on producing banjo content, like for Patreon or YouTube or something? And do you work on the side as well? So Ben, my actual profession, what I went to college for after I was in the Army, I went on the GI Bill, and I have a bachelor's of science in anthropology with a concentration in archaeology. So what I generally do, my actual profession that I would like to do is archaeology. And I was doing that. I was working for the public sector. I won't say exactly which organization I was working for, but I was working for government right when COVID-19 hit. I was working on a Trail of Tears project. The Trail of Tears, y'all, is not just one trail. It's a network of roads and trail systems where they moved not just the Cherokee, but many Native American Indian groups and forced them west in the late 1830s. On a network of trails called the Trail of Tears. And so up here where I live in eastern Tennessee, there's a lot of Trail of Tears. And I was working on a really interesting Trail of Tears project. I can't really talk too much about it, but I was working with Cherokee archaeologists, for example, which was a real privilege and very interesting. And then COVID-19 hit and knocked that out of the park. So I have not worked in my profession, in my trade in archaeology since January, February of this year. So I hope all that goes back to normal because I love that job. That's really my primary interest is archaeology. So how much do I spend on banjo content? I don't know. Every day? I don't know. Probably several hours a day because you have to practice, you have to play. This is a sample of my library. I'm reading constantly. Thinking about it constantly, taking photographs, working on instruments in the back room that I'm going to film and show you guys, dealing with camera stuff and film editing, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. It varies. So several hours a day I'm working on banjo content. So Seth asks, what's the ideal thickness for a wood rim? Seth, you want a thin rim no matter what. Look how thin the rim is on this banjo. It's very thin. And granted, this is a solid metal rim with a wooden tone ring inside of it, but it's very thin. You want a thin rim on your banjo. Also, look how shallow this rim is. It's only about 2 inches deep from here to here. You want a shallow and thin rim. That's my other problem that I have with modern old-time banjos is most of these makers are making them with big blocky bluegrass style rims. That's not the sound that I'm after. It mutes the instrument. And then you have to put this big heavy tank of a tone ring on it to make it sound like anything. So my recommendation to, and I know a lot of you out there have Pisgah banjos, for example. Pisgah is one company that I do like. Even though he doesn't do exactly what I want him to do, hey. But if you get a Pisgah banjo, I highly recommend getting his spun over metal clad rim banjos because he uses, I think he mostly uses ash for those, and he uses a thin piece of wood. So you can get a thin rimmed banjo from Pisgah, and the way you do it is get a metal clad spun over rim. I highly recommend that. If you want a good Pisgah banjo, get one with or any modern banjo, get one that's metal clad and has a thinner rim. The big chunky rims, there's nothing wrong with that, but they're just, if you want it to sound optimal, you need a thin, light banjo. So Jonesy asks if I know any good luthiers in the Knoxville area. I don't know, Jonesy. I don't know anybody up there. I don't know anybody around me. I only know a couple of good luthiers that I would vouch for, and both of those guys live in Western North Carolina. Probably the best, fastest luthier that I know who's real professional is a guy named Jack Dillon, and Jack lives in Asheville. So if you can, and you can ship instruments to him and he'll mail them back to you. If you can get to Asheville, look up Jack Dillon, D-I-L-L-E-N. And Jack Dillon is the best fast professional luthier that I know who can do just about anything. Okay, Vincent gave us $5 and he says, thank you for all that you do, keeping this music alive. Could you do a video on how to play Jubilee? Vincent, I think I have done that. I'm not sure if I made a tab for it on the Patreon group yet, but Vincent, I'm pretty sure I did a lesson video on Jubilee. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't keep track of it now. I've done so many. But if you go, type in Clifton Hicks and Jubilee and the word lesson on YouTube, and it should pop up. And somebody let me know if I'm incorrect on that. So Dylan says he put nylon strings on his Deering banjo, his Good Time, and he filed the slots on the stock bridge, but he should order, yes, you should order a solid maple bridge. Get it from Joel Hooks. He's making the best bridges right now. I wouldn't say that if it wasn't true. Other people are making them, but you can go to Clifford, Essex, but that's all the way in England. You can order a bridge from Clifford, Essex, but why would you order a Clifford, Essex English bridge coming all the way across the Atlantic when Joel Hooks is right there in New Hampshire? So I would pretty much, I recommend everybody do business with Hooks. BanjoThimble.com. Try not to punch it too much. He ain't paying me, but he does give me free bridges. So it's, that's worth its weight in gold. Oh, let's see. Oh, Ramrod San Benito says, hola, Senor Clifton. Hey, Ramrod. Good to see you, my friend. Oh, boy, do you have... Let me see. I'm going to scoot down. Somebody gave us a super chat down here. I need to get with the program. Oh boy. Okay, so Sarah Nichols says, hey Cliff, when I try to learn songs by ear from recordings, I can never figure out which tuning they're in. Any tips on where to start with that? Well, Sarah, that is tricky, and you've been playing banjo for a long time. Sarah is a good banjo player, y'all. You should look up Sarah Nichols. She gave us a super chat down here in the chat. Y'all should click on her and check out her channel. Sarah, I really can't, I don't know what to tell you with that because I have the same problem, right? Let me put this thing up just for a minute. I got some hot drink here I want to drink. It's tricky, Sarah, and you'll notice Sarah's on the Patreon group. I think I made this stuff public now. I did that lesson recently on Ola Belle Reed's version of Boats Up the River. Boats up the river won't come down. So I did it in double C, and that's the tuning I thought she was in. I had no clue. And somebody, Richard McLean, another great banjo player, y'all should check out Richard McLean. He's from a band called the Glade City Rounders. Richard McLean reached out to me and said, hey, Cliff, you know, Ola Belle didn't really use double C tuning. And in that song, she tuned the old Rubin tuning, F sharp D, F sharp A D, what we call drop D tuning as well. And I had no idea. And that's interesting as well, Sarah, because double C and drop D, the Rubin tuning, those tunings are very compatible. So any song that you can play in double C, you can also play in the drop D Rubin tuning, F sharp D, F sharp A D. And especially for you, Sarah, since you're a woman and you do have a higher voice than me, some songs in double C might sound too low for you. If they're real heavy on the bass string, you might experiment with that. If you want to sing something higher pitched, try it in the Rubin tuning, drop D, F sharp D, F sharp A D, because it functions the same way as double C, believe it or not. It's just a little bit higher. So I'm freaking out gave us $5 and said, my 2-year-old daughter loves your hook and line video and makes me play it on repeat while she dances like crazy, just so you know. I'm glad to hear that. That is a dance tune. I like that tune. It makes me want to dance. Oh, Blaine gave us another $2. Speaking of Irish folk, do you play songs like Whiskey in the Jar? Blaine, I never have played that song. If I have like a Chieftains tape or something in the truck on a road trip, I'll sing along to it. I know all those Irish songs. I grew up singing them from the tapes of like Tommy Makem and the Dubliners and folks like that. I don't play too many of those on the banjo. You know, Moonshiner is an Irish tune, but I don't play the Irish version. Shady Grove is an Irish tune, but I don't play the Irish version. There was one that I did called the Black Velvet Band, which the Dubliners did. Luke Kelly did that really well. And but Black Velvet Band is not it's actually an English folk song, I think. Okay, Resignation Iffy gave us €5, which is great. I like euros, worth more than the US dollar. And so Resignation says, can you say a bit about why the drone string stops at the 5th fret? If it were up to me, I'd have it farther down to get it out of the way. So what Resignation is talking about is how this thumb string on the banjo nowadays, it's standardized at the 5th fret. So you'll find, actually this is interesting because if you look at earlier antique banjos from the 1870s, 1860s and earlier, nothing was standardized on the banjo yet in those days. So often you'll see the thumb peg actually is situated on the 7th fret position. Whether the banjo is fretted or not, you'll see the thumb peg is down here, all the way down here. And if you go back earlier, I haven't really seen this on fretted banjos, but on fretless banjos, sometimes you'll see the thumb peg in the 4th or even the 3rd fret position, way up here. So Resignation, you might want to look into, and maybe in England, I'm not sure where you're at. You're not in England, you're in Europe somewhere. But maybe in Europe, you could find one of those old banjos. They're exceedingly rare, but people can make them for you. I could make one that way if I wanted, where the thumb peg comes in at the 7th fret. For a while, early, like in the 1870s, 1880s, they were toying. Some people were trying to make that the standard position for the 5th string. So why it's here, I don't quite know. I think it has something to do with when they decided to standardize, you know, when you know you hold the first string at the 5th fret and you can relative tune and get the same sound. I guess it has something to do with that. I don't quite know why they did that. But that did not become standard until about 1880. And prior to that, this thumb peg came out. They might put it here, they might put it down here. You know, you never know. So I don't know why that is. That's an interesting question. Woohoo! $10 from Everybody Loves Devin. So Devin says, do you know any history behind why the 5-pointed star are on banjos? I don't know that. I don't know that. Different types of stars are sort of interesting. I don't know why they did that. I guess it's just because that's the typical star. I mean, if you look on the United States flag, for example, we'd have 5-pointed stars all over the United States flag. The Confederate flag, 5-pointed stars. Earlier on in our nation's history, though, you'd see stars depicted with 8 points, 7 points. 6-pointed star is really cool. I'm not going to show off too much of my skin here, but I like the 6-pointed star. And this is actually a tattoo that John Haywood did for me a long time ago. And the 6-pointed star is something that you see in Native American motifs a lot. I don't understand. And also the Star of David, of course, is 6-pointed. This is not a Star of David. I'm not Jewish. But it is a 6-pointed star. It's sort of an American 6-pointed star. A lot of the early Confederate iconography used 6-pointed stars, especially down here in the Deep South. They had a lot of 6-pointed star imagery. And I got that 6-pointed star idea from, I believe, from the unit I was in the Army. I was in a cavalry regiment in the Army, the 1st Cavalry Regiment, 1st Squadron, 1st Cavalry Regiment. And their emblem, I believe it's an orange 6-pointed star with a black ring around it. Kind of looks like a old-timey Old West sheriff's badge. And this tattoo was kind of a military tattoo. Sort of these words, remembering some friends of mine that were killed. That is an early Army symbol, the fist holding 13 arrows. And then the rest of it's just animals and stuff and boats and shit like that. So I don't know why almost all of the stars that we see on banjos are 5-pointed stars. I don't know why they did that. Maybe it's just because it's the easiest way to make a star. I don't know. I don't know why they did that. That's an interesting question, Devin. Okay, we got over 100 people in here. It'd be great if everybody could give us a thumbs up. If we had 100 thumbs up, we'd probably get another 50 people come in here. Oh, Blaine says he's getting into luthiery work. That's great, man. You should do it. You should do it. We need more luthiers, man. There's no shortage of, there's no overabundance of luthiers right now. We need them. And we need good luthiers who aren't damaging banjos and doing crazy stuff. So E.W. Hawkins says he can't wait, or he or she can't wait for the Cotton Eye Joe lesson. Me neither. I haven't filmed it yet, but that's actually a real simple one. That's going to be an easy one for y'all. It'll be easy for me to tab out. It'll be easy for me to teach. And what's neat about that is the way I did that. That's an original arrangement. So I'm pretty proud of that arrangement. And if you play it that way, you won't play that song like anybody else. It's a very unique way to play Cotton Eye Joe. So I will do that soon, EW. So Steph says, hello, Clifton. I would like to learn some black folk songs like Going Up North. Do you know a few? Yes, I know quite a few black folk songs. Probably 40–50% of my repertoire are black folk songs. And if you're specifically interested in Going Up North, Steph, I'm pretty sure I did a Going Up North lesson. I'm pretty sure. So, and if you go on the Patreon group, patreon.com/Clifton Hicks for $2 a month, you can get the tab for Going Up North if you're using tablature. But in the meantime, get on YouTube at some point and type in Clifton Hicks Going Up North lesson. and it should pop up. I'm fairly certain I did a lesson on going up north. Others that I play are like Old Blue. That's definitely a black one. Cotton Eye Joe is a black folk song. That song that I opened this up with, She's on the Road Somewhere, that's a black folk song. At least 40% of these are folk song or black songs, maybe more. And of course, that gets into tricky territory because what constitutes a black song versus a white song? I usually don't get into the weeds there because, especially in the southeastern United States, black culture and white culture are really one and the same. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. I don't care what you think. I just know I've grown up here. I've lived here all my life. I grew up with black people and white people, and our cultures are almost indistinguishable. Really, there's very few differences between Southern black culture and Southern white culture. And that translates over into the early music too. Basically the same thing. And what different, the different between white and black music, and speaking of Southern folk music, early Southern folk music, the differences that are there are very slight, and it's very difficult to tell unless the lyrics are specifically Anglo or specifically Afro in some way. It's impossible to say most of the time whether a song is black or white. There's been so much borrowing and contribution from both sides. Interesting subject. I could talk about that for hours. So Resignation says Moonshiner is Irish. No way. Yeah, Moonshiner is an Irish song. I've been look up the song Wild Rover. In Ireland, they call it the Wild Rover. And he says, I've been a wild rover for many long years. I spent all my money on whiskey and beer. And our version, Moonshiner, is I've been a moonshiner for 21 years. I've spent all my money on whiskey and beer. They are the same song. It's just in Ireland that you tend to hear it played in a major scale, and over here we play it in a minor scale. But yeah, Moonshiner is an Irish song originally. It comes from Ireland. So now that there's an example of a song that we know is, for example, not black because it came from Ireland. But I wouldn't go around saying that Moonshiner is a white folk song because clearly it had lots of contributions from African American, from black musicians, because when we play on the banjo, for example, that comes from black culture. Okay. Oh, so EW asked me if I do a version of Camptown Races. I've never learned Camptown Races on the banjo. See, that's one of those minstrel tunes, and I tend to shy away from the minstrel repertoire most of the time. Some of them are really good songs, really catchy, like like Dixie, for example, right, is a really catchy minstrel tune. But Camptown Races, Camptown ladies sing this song, doo-da, doo-da. And that Camptown Races never really sparked my interest. Maybe I'll play it one day. Elise says, hey, I just want to say I love your work. I've learned so much from your channel. Elise, I'm glad to hear that. That's great. And we need more ladies on this channel too. I was looking at my analytics just the other day. It's like 90% males between the ages of 18 and 34 is who watches this material. And that's great. I love you guys. That's fine and dandy. But I love to see the ladies get involved in this, younger people, older people. And so that's great, Elise. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Thank you for looking. Josh says he's got to leave. Farewell, Josh. Take care, buddy. So Astro says, Clifton, what state are you in? I live in East Tennessee, right on the border. There's Georgia comes up right to here and stops, and then you have Tennessee. So I live right on the Georgia-Tennessee border. Near the closest town is a little town called Copper Hill, Tennessee. And if you look around, I have it on my Facebook and I have it on the YouTube channel in the About section. I have a P.O. box in Copper Hill. You can actually send me mail if you want. And some people do mail me things. Joel Hooks sends me stuff in the mail. You can look up my P.O. box and send me stuff. But Copper Hill, Tennessee is the nearest little town. Oh, Professor Luigi says, when did people start doing banjo tricks? Was it Uncle Dave who started it, or were there others? Great question, Luigi. Uncle Dave did not start those banjo tricks. He did not make those up. He learned those from blackface minstrels and medicine show performers and stuff. There was a lot of crossover there. And maybe some of those he might have learned from actual black people. We don't know. But basically, to answer your question, Luigi, all those crazy banjo tricks that Uncle Dave Macon does, all this stuff, I do a little bit of it, like the walking the fingerboard. I do a little bit of that. I learned that from George Gibson. Those techniques are very old. They're much older than Uncle Dave. They go back probably to the minstrel stage. A lot of them. The crazy tricks where they're spinning the banjo and they're doing grandfather's clock and all that. That comes from the minstrel stage. And in the 1850s and 60s, they actually had a lot more tricks that we've only read about, and people have been lost. People don't know how to do them. There was a lot of crazy banjo tricks in the minstrel period, especially those banjos were often lighter. You could do more crazy stuff with them. If you're interested in banjo tricks, the person who's alive today who does most of those tricks really well, there's a couple people. Joel Hooks can do it. Look up Joel Hooks doing banjo tricks. The main one who's really famous for doing the Uncle Dave style old minstrel banjo tricks is Leroy Troy. He's over there in Nashville, Tennessee, professional musician. You got to look up Leroy Troy. He does all those crazy banjo tricks and he's expert at it. Okay, we're cruising on down. I got some super chats I gotta get to. Oh, scooting down. I'm sorry to be passing all this stuff. Okay, so Doug gave us 5 pounds, 5 pounds sterling from the old country, from old Blighty. And so Doug says, I have an old English banjo with a hide head on it. Is there a way to judge how much to tighten the head up without it splitting? So Doug, the old hide heads are, they're a constant source they're always changing. If you are currently living in England, I guess you are, you gave me 5 quid. If you're living in England, I think your humidity is fairly high in England. So probably and also those skin heads, they stretch out over time. So there's really, when I tighten a skin head, I basically I do it by feel. You see me pushing my thumb here on the banjo head and just visually and how it feels. I like my banjo heads to be really tight. That's why I've gone to just a cheap frosted, Remo frosted head on this, because I can get it really tight and it stays that way. But on your antique English banjo with the calfskin head, I presume, just go ahead and if it's loose, if you can take your thumb and easily push and push it up and down, if you look to the side, if the bridge is sinking down, and if you look back here and you see these feet are protruding too much, it's sinking too down, then you want to tighten your head up a little bit. The main trick to do is if you ever do have dry weather back there in England, back home, then if you ever do have dry weather, don't tighten your banjo just be careful. You don't want to over tighten it, right? The worst thing you can do is actually break your antique hardware, because we've all done that. The hooks will shear right at the hook And then that really sucks, because then oftentimes you can't replace that piece of hardware because there's not any left. So just be careful. Usually the hardware will break before, if it's a good calf skin, the old antique hardware will actually break before the calf skin, which I don't like to do. So just be careful. But probably if your banjo is soft and loose, go ahead and give everything a little quarter turn or a half turn, and you can look up how to do that. It's just like tightening a snare drum. I'll do this one first, and then I'll come here. Then I'll do number 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4, and so on until I get them all tight. So just be careful. Give them all, start with a quarter turn or a half turn at most, and that might all be all you need to do. And I should also point out that George Gibson, my primary banjo mentor, he always uses a skin head on his banjo. He keeps them pretty loose, looser than standard. He doesn't like them real tight, so you don't have to have a tight banjo head. Oh, so Sam says, Clifton, can you discuss a little bit between the difference of a real animal skin hide or a frosted Remo head? The other option, if you said you're getting a new steel string banjo and you wonder what you should go for. So the other third type of option that you're going to have on a modern banjo, find your name again, Samsa. The other option you're going to have is what they call a fiber skin head, and I recommend everybody avoid the fiber skin. Fiber skin heads are not good. They could be good, but the way that they make them currently is not good. So I recommend everybody stay away from the fiber skin heads. And currently, really, for most banjoists, especially new banjo players, I do recommend just the plain frosted Remo head. I know they don't look like much. Nobody wants these anymore, but this is really about the best thing, especially for a new banjoist, if you don't want to worry about all that stuff. But if you're hell bent on having an animal skin head, then I would avoid the goat. Goat is inferior to the calf skin. Unfortunately, goat is really popular right now, but it's fine. Goat is fine. I've played with goat skins. Many and most of the banjos that I build, I put goat skins on them because goat skins are cheaper. The problem with goat is that it's a more porous skin and it's more prone to weather changes. So on a really wet, humid day, your goat skin is going to stretch out and get floppy. On a really dry, arid, hot day, your goat skin is going to shrink a lot. And so you're going to have differences in bridge height all the time if you use a goat skin head. Some days you're going to pick your banjo up and your bridge is going to be way up here, your actions are going to be way up here. Some days you'll pick your goat skin banjo up on a wet day or whatever, and the action and bridge will be way down here. So that's also not ideal if you're a beginner. So if you're hell-bent on having an animal skin head, which I don't recommend, you need to get a calf skin head. And the calf skin heads that are pure white, that basically look just like this, those are the best ones that are going to shrink and expand the least. They're going to sound the best and hold up the best. But like I said, I do recommend that you stick with the frosted Remo head. They are really, it's the simplest, it's the best. They're kind of like the Glock 19 of banjo heads, you know. Glocks don't look pretty. They're not that comfortable to shoot. The triggers aren't that great, but they are the simplest and they never fail, and they're easy to get, right? So everybody shoots a Glock 19, right? And the Remo frosted heads are that way. This is the Glock of banjo heads. So if you're, it's getting a little weird, but this is what I'm recommending, just for simplicity's sake. For most players, you want the frosted Remo head. Okay, we got another super chat from Take Dead Aim, gave us $5. Take Dead Aim says, I put nylon strings on a banjo. I have a bridge from Joel, but it needs a new nut. What string to fret clearance do you suggest? Oh, for the first fret and the 12th fret. I'm not sure. I think my My action, you know, the old timey, real traditional action it depends. The action at the 12th fret, take dead aim, that depends on whether your banjo has neck angle or if it's flat. Like if it's an antique banjo, it should have 0-degree neck angle like this one. And then your action is going to be, put it over my shirt. You see my action is a little bit high. I don't know how tall that is. It's about 1/4 of an inch probably over the 12th fret, maybe a little more than 1/4 of an inch. And that's optimal for me. Up here at the 1st fret, that looks like it's 1/8 of an inch or a little bit more. I don't know what to tell you, but you can get on, there's forums, there's online forums. You can go on like banjohangout.org, banjohangout.org, and you can ask on those forums questions like that, and you'll get 100 guys who are more knowledgeable than me who will respond to you. So I recommend that. You need a new nut. So whenever I put a new nut in, I don't ever try to measure the action or anything like that. I just get my spacing the way I want it, and then I start sawing. And I cut those slots just barely, and then I put the strings on, and then I play it. And it's usually too high, and then I take the strings off again, and then I saw it a little bit more, cut it out a little bit more, file it out a little bit more, put the strings back on, lower it a little bit, and you just keep going until it's perfect, and then you stop. And I don't know what those measurements are for that, but that's the way I do it. Landon's asking me to play Dixie. Oh, man. Sort of play Dixie. That's not one that I really ever figured out. If I was going to really figure out Dixie, I'd want to actually look up, get a piece of like old, you know, period like minstrel tablature or something, and try to learn it out of a minstrel instruction book to get that early sound. That would be cool. Because I don't think in the old instruction, like when Dan Emmett allegedly composed Dixie, I'm in double C right now. I don't think he composed it in double C. He probably would have done it in just that 2-finger C tuning, the old minstrel tuning, G, C, G, B, D. It's a catchy tune, Landon, but it's not really one of my favorites. And if you looked up the words are kind of silly. I don't know. You know, a song I really like is "Oh Susanna." That's a minstrel song that I really like. Oh Susanna, don't you cry for me, 'cause I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. That's a good song. And my grandfather was from Alabama, and he used to actually sing the chorus. He didn't know the words to it, but he would sing the chorus to me, or he would just sing it to himself, like walking around. You know, and that guy. Both of my grandfathers didn't really pay attention to me when I was growing up, so he would probably sing it to himself. Would be more accurate to say. That's kind of sad. But "Oh Susanna" is one that I really like. So Fritz is asking me, do you ever plan on going to Celtic Connections? What is Celtic Connections, Fritz? Is that like a Celtic folk festival somewhere? That's what it sounds like. Where is it? I don't even know where it is. If it's in the United States, I don't know, probably not. Well, I want to go to England and Ireland and Scotland and Wales again. That's what I really want to do. If anybody out there can hook up a tour for me when COVID is over or dies back down, one place I would actually tour would be United Kingdom and Ireland. I would love to go there and do that. And that's something I'd really like to do. I'd like to go back to Europe in general, but I really want to go back to the UK and Ireland. So when I was in the Army, I visited, I went to London, I went to Holyhead, Wales, and I went to Dublin. And I did not carry my banjo with me. I traveled with this other drunk soldier, and literally all we did was get hammered drunk every day from London to Dublin. And we just got wasted and walked the streets. and I didn't, and I was in the cities too. And then we went back to Germany after that, back to our army unit. So I really regret that trip. It was fun, but I want to go back to England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland again and do it right. I want to bring my banjo, and I want to not just be drunk and worthless the whole time. I want to be a little bit drunk, but not the way we were when we were in the army. We were ridiculous. And like I said, I didn't have my banjo with me, and I kicked myself every day for not carrying my banjo when I went to England and Ireland. Okay, Misty gave us $5. Oh boy. I'm sorry, y'all. I hit the wrong button here. Trying to find that last super chat. I'm coming to you, Misty. I'm coming. Okay, Misty gave us $5, and Misty says, do you have a rate for setups or repair if someone were to mail you a banjo to fix? You need one that you need help with. Well, Misty, for you, you know, you're a good supporter and stuff, Misty. I would cut you a deal. My answer to you is you could mail it to my P.O. box address, which you can find on the About section of the YouTube channel. I also have it on my Facebook page. I have it right there, the P.O. box. So you could mail me the banjo, and I wouldn't rip you off. I couldn't tell you how much it would cost just off the top of my head. But for just I'm not like a trained luthier. Like, I'm a self-trained amateur luthier, so I don't have a lot of the tools. I don't have any really very many special tools, and I don't have any special training. Just what I've learned myself and been observed actual luthiers do who have taught me things. So, but I can do basic repair work, and I can definitely set the thing up. I can, you know, make nuts and bridges and tuning pegs and stuff like that. And so, Misty, if you mail me the banjo, best thing you can do, Misty, is email me. I think you probably have my email address already. Best thing you can do is email me and discuss it further. And I'd be happy to help you, Misty. I do work like that, especially for my friends. So the same thing every day asked me if I have a girlfriend. I thought I saw a video of a girl filming you walking around in the woods. Sorry if this is a personal question. Well, that is a personal question, but I have a significant other. I have a spouse. We're not really in the girlfriend boyfriend stage anymore. We've been together for 6 years, I think, and we have probably both tried to get rid of each other, and we can't get rid of each other. So I call her my wife, because we're married as far as I'm concerned. We're not married legally on paper, but I don't care about that, you know. So I have a spouse. I have a significant other. I'm in a conventional monogamous relationship. I'm not looking for anybody, and I don't fool around, and I am straight as an arrow. I had a buddy in the Army used to say, I'm straight as one of them engine arrows. So I'm pretty damn straight, and I'm in a conventional monogamous relationship for quite a few years now. To me, longest relationship I've been in. So Landon says he talked to Leroy Troy about a month ago on the phone. Landon, I'm interested to hear more about that conversation. If you feel like saying more, I'd like to hear more about it. Have you learned any of those tricks, Landon? That would be cool. So Sean O'Rourke asks, have you ever been to historical reenactments? What is your opinion of them? Not just Civil War, but pre-Civil War and colonial period. So Sean, yes, I've been to hundreds of reenactments. I was a hardcore campaigner style Civil War reenactor from the age of 16 to the age of 26. And I didn't just do battle reenactments. I don't like or condone the reenactments of combat. I think it's kind of silly. And most of the time when it's done disrespectfully and inaccurately. So I actually don't really like the combat battle reenactments generally. Some of them can be done well, especially if they're smaller. What I mostly did and what I really enjoyed was I volunteered at state and national parks, and even a few private parks and private museums. And what I did, what was called historical interpretation. I was a historical interpreter. So I did that at Gettysburg. I did that at Stones River. I did that at Andersonville. I've done that at Fort Sumter, Fort Moultrie. I've done that. So like you said, not just Civil War, I did earlier periods too. When I was a kid growing up in Florida, the Seminole War is the biggest thing that happened in Florida. And it was also the bloodiest and most costly of the Indian wars in terms of cash and lives. The three Seminole Wars that they fought in Florida were terrible wars. And in Florida, people reenact the Seminole Wars. So I've done Seminole War reenacting. I haven't done Revolutionary War reenacting, but the closest I did to that was I went to I think it's a national park in Kentucky. I forget the name of that park. And we did an early 1800s, like a War of 1812. So I've done War of 1812 reenacting. And I've also done civilian historical interpretive work from that's basically like pre-Civil War, 1840s, 1850s interpretive work, and a lot of 1830s civilian historical interpretive work. I haven't done it in a long time, but I really like that. What happened was I went to the Army and came back, and reenacting seemed kind of silly to me, and I quit. And then I went to college for archaeology. So now mostly what I focus on is historical archaeology. And I haven't done any interpretive work in many years. So Blaine gave me a $2 super chat, and he says he's thinking of reproducing the 1867 Dobson. What are my thoughts? I like 1867 Dobsons. Some people still call them tubs, but they're not supposed to sound like, you're never going to get an 1867 Dobson to sound like that. They are going to, it's a deeper, if you're not familiar with the 1867 Dobson model, y'all should look it up. It's a really neat banjo. It's actually, I think they were the first resonator banjos, and they were made in New York City. They were made by Buckbee, probably, and for Dobson, and they had a resonator. And they were pretty popular up through the 1870s. I want to say they were pretty popular. And so, yeah, Blaine says it'll definitely be a challenge. Take you a lot of work. And Blaine, you've owned at least one 1867 Dobson, right? I mean, that's the first step. You have to own one so you can disassemble it and copy it. I don't know if anybody's ever, I'm sure somebody has made copies of them, but I've never seen a copy. I've seen copies of, what was that other maker, the really good maker in New York? Ashbourne. I've seen really good copies of the James Ashbourne guitars. A guy named David Oakes, I think his name is Dave Oakes. He made a really fine, very exact reproduction of an Ashbourne banjo. So people are doing that. I don't think I've ever seen an 1867 Dobson reproduced. Okay, Ward gave us $5 and asked me to play Morgan's March. Okay, I'll do that. David gave us $5 and said, thanks for what you do. You're welcome, David. Thank you for the $5. Steph gave us 10 euros. Wow, thanks a lot, Steph. Thank you. Thank you. I love those euros, and I love those sterling pounds. That's good money. So we had a request for Morgan's March. I'll try to play it. It's been years. There we go. Took me a minute. Morgan's March. So that's in standard tuning G, D, G, B, D. And that's one that I learned from George Gibson. If you want to hear how that's supposed to sound, George plays it overhand. He goes, he actually, that's hard for me to do. It is similar to Coal Creek March, but it is not the same. It's slightly different. And the story behind that, they call it Morgan's March, according to George. George learned it from an older guy in the Knott County nursing home. And this older guy had learned it from his dad or his grandfather. And the story was that this older guy that George learned it from, his great-grandfather was a guy named Samp Combs. There's lots of Combses in Knott County, Kentucky. So Samp Combs in 1864, a Confederate raider by the name of General John Hunt Morgan came riding through Knott County in 1864. And he was basically stealing people's horses and cattle for the Confederate Army. And both sides did that, devastated the area. And so Samp Combs, basically when he heard that General John Hunt Morgan was coming, he took all his horses and his cows and ran them off up the mountain into the woods, and he went and hid with them. And when he got out in the woods, he remembered that he left his fiddle hanging up by the fireplace of his house. He thought, oh, man. And unfortunately, the Confederate cavalry decided they were going to sleep in his house overnight. So when he went, he snuck back down to get the fiddle. And the story is that General John Hunt Morgan himself was standing in front of the house by a campfire, big roaring campfire, playing that fiddle, and he was playing that tune. And Samp Combs remembered it and played it, and he called it Morgan's March. And I guess that his younger descendant learned it on the banjo and taught his son, and then George learned it from him. So that little tune. Apparently that comes from General John Hunt Morgan playing it on a stolen fiddle. John Haywood, a really great artist up in Knott County, Kentucky, has done an oil painting of that scene, it's 3 scenes and 3 panels of a really beautiful oil painting. And it shows, basically tells that story, I believe, in 3 panels of the story of General John Hunt Morgan playing a stolen fiddle. So I don't know. It's really interesting. I imagine there's some truth to that story. I don't know why, whether or not it was actually General Morgan himself. I don't know. Are there any Civil War historians out there who can tell us? I mean, did John Hunt Morgan actually play the fiddle? Could that have happened? Was he in Knott County, Kentucky in 1864? Really, I'd be real fascinating if somebody could give us some more details about that. I mean, my first instinct is to just believe the story is true, because I learned it from George Gibson, and I just assume that it's all accurate information. But I know it's oral history passed down many generations, so I'm sure there's more to it than that, right? Okay, we're cruising right along. So Take Dead Aim gave us $2, and he says the Baby Electric is one sweet banjo. Yeah, that's a cool instrument. If y'all don't know what he's talking about, I did a video recently. I had a Fairbanks electric banjo. I sold it right away. I don't have it anymore. But it had a little tiny 9-inch head and a little short 21-inch scale neck with an electric tone ring in it, and it sounded great. Sort of a rare banjo. So look up that video. You look at, type in my name and type in Baby Electric, and that video will pop up if you want to see that. So Landon says he started playing 3-finger banjo and hated it, so he learned a clawhammer, and then he taught himself how to play 2-finger and up picking. And those are his 3 styles. That's good, Landon. That's great. That's what I play. I play overhand, 2-finger, and up picking. And if you can do those 3 styles, you've about got your bases covered when it comes to real traditional old-time banjo. That's cool, man. Okay. I'm going to go back. There's some more questions that I have pulled up from earlier that I want to hit. So if anybody has any more questions, feel free, post them in the chat. If you can give me a super chat, that's great. That gets my attention. So Ken says, I have a habit of thumb slapping the head when I play overhand. Probably every time the thumb comes down if I don't consciously think about it. What are your thoughts on that? And as a follow-up question, do you have any tips to help me improve my right hand technique? Ken, it's okay if your thumb slaps the side of the head when you're playing overhand. That's fine. I guess mine doesn't really do that. I'm trying to make it do that. If I only knew you cared nothing for me, I'd take morphine till I die. Don't do it, buddy. Yeah, take me a dose of that old morphine, and I bid this world goodbye. Ken, my thumb, I can't get my thumb to slap like that. If yours does, it's okay. I wouldn't worry about it. I just consider it another percussive technique. If you notice my thumb when I'm playing there, I have a very light sort of, it almost like cruises like this. One thing that might help you, Ken, whenever I'm teaching a new student, I always tell them that the thumb string is your thumb's home, and your thumb wants to stay home, and if it ever leaves home, it wants to go back home. So I think if you don't like that your thumb, the side of your thumb is slapping the head, then maybe if you try to focus on letting your thumb rest in this position on the 5th string as much as you can. I actually let my thumb is basically resting on the 5th string all the time. So that's okay if your thumb is slapping, but if you want to get away from it, try to focus on keeping your thumb at home and letting it really ride that 5th string. Because I think a lot of when I see people who their thumb is slapping, it's like their thumb is going away and coming back all the time. So I don't do that. I let my thumb pretty much stays on that thumb string, and I think that's why my thumb doesn't slap. Again, it's okay if your thumb does slap. Okay, we got some super chats. So I'm going to read these super chats. So Snurd gave us $5 and says, would you ever do a banjo version of Buckeye Jim? It's a hard song to sing, but an instrumental in your style would be wonderful. Snurd, I'm not familiar with Buckeye Jim. I don't think I've ever heard of that song. Is that a fiddle tune? It almost sounds like it's a Yankee fiddle tune. If I had to guess, I'd say that might be a Yankee fiddle tune, because Buckeyes I associate with Pennsylvania and up north. Get back to me, Snurd. Give me some more information. I'll try to read it. That sounds like it might be a Yankee fiddle tune, which would explain why I've never heard of it. So John's Banjo gave us 5 sterling pounds, 5 quid. Woo, big money. And John says, thanks for all you do, Cliff. Do you have any tips on improving timing while playing? And should I worry about it too much if I'm just playing solo? So if you're only ever going to play solo, then no, throw timing out the window. Try to keep your rhythm, because ultimately this is a dance instrument. And so you know, timing is important, but if you're just playing solo, like you're just a solo blues man with a banjo, timing's not really ever going to be that important for you. And I can tell you, I can tell on myself a little bit, my timing was pretty awful all through childhood, all through playing banjo in the Army, because I always played solo. And it wasn't until I moved to Boone, North Carolina about 2007, 2008, when my timing started to improve, because I started playing with guitar players and fiddle players and other banjo players. And when you're playing with other people, your timing has to be pretty damn near close to spot on, right? Or you'll piss them off and they won't play with you for long. So I had lots of problems with that because I never cared about timing. If I liked something, if I wanted to drag out a part, I would drag it out. If I wanted to tighten up a part and get through it quicker, I'd tighten up and get through it. I would often, if I played something without singing it, I played it completely differently from the way I would play it when I sung over it. If I sing, I still do that today, just to be a dick. If I sing over it, I'll play it differently than when I'm just playing an instrumental, right? That's sort of solo bluesman privilege, right? Like, we don't care about timing because we play solo and we bring the heat alone, and we make this one instrument sound like a whole band, right? But to improve your timing, the best way to improve your timing, John, is easy for me to say and difficult for you to do, is to play with another musician or play in a band, because they will make you improve your timing. I understand right now with social distancing and we've got this disease going around and flu season's coming back, so it's not very likely that you're going to find bandmates this year. I understand that. But that is the best way to improve your timing, is to play with other musicians. So failing that, you could always get a metronome. I don't like metronomes, but they work. But the best way is to play with other people. Okay, so Tohiski Climbing Gear asked me if I can play Wayfaring Stranger, gave us $2. Wayfaring Stranger. When I was a kid, I used to play Wayfaring Stranger. That song was, I am a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe. That is one that I'm in standard tuning. I actually would have to work up a version of that. I played it when I was a little kid. I learned it from a recording of Roscoe Holcomb when I was about 14. And I have not played it in years. And I don't remember what tuning I was in. Probably I was in... Oh, yeah. Something like that. There'll be no sickness, toil, or danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my mother. She said she'd meet me when I come. I'm only going over Jordan. I'm only going over home. Wow. Thanks for reminding me of that song. I forgot about that song. I have a hard time singing verses that you're singing about your mother and stuff. My mother died very tragically, actually in September this month of 2012. She died violently and tragically. So I have a hard time singing those songs about mother. But that is, thank you for reminding me of that. That's a beautiful song. I should learn that. I guess I already did. That's a beautiful song. Thank you for reminding me about that. I will have to work it up. I'll have to work it up. Simon says he's never had a metronome what weren't broke. Damn. Never had a metronome myself. My grandmother was a organ player. She played a big church organ, and she had a metronome. So I would turn it on just to play with it sometimes, like make it. She had just not an electric one, old timey pendulum metronome, and it weren't broke. It worked great. So Landon says, if you're in F tuning, how do you tune down to C tuning? Well, Landon, what do you mean by F tuning? Do you mean GD, one full step down, so it's FC, FAC? So Landon, if you're in this FC, FAC tuning, basically standard G tuning, but tuned down to F, you get to double C the same way you would if you was in GD, GBD. You hold your third string down at the 5th fret. That gives you this note, and you're going to drag your second string up to match that, the third string at the 5th. So. And then you're going to drop your bass string down until it matches that new second string you made. Your second string is now up to B flat. Hook and I'll take line. We'll go fishing summertime. You get a line, I get a pole. We'll run down to the fishing hole. My old mistress promised me when she dies, she's gonna set me free. She lived so long till her head went bald. I don't believe she's gonna die at all. Yeah! That's how you get to it, Landon. That's how you get to it. It's called relative tuning. You just, from where you're at in F tuning, make your second string sound the same note as the third at the 5th. Then you're going to drop your bass until your bass makes the same sound as your second string open. That's how you do it, young man. Okay, Snurd gave us another $5, and he says, not sure where it's from. I heard it on a cassette tape I owned as a kid, which was all traditional songs sung by Burl Ives, and he used a guitar. Buckeye, what was it? Buckeye Jim? That's interesting. I've never heard of Buckeye Jim. I never have heard of it, but Burl Ives. Who is Burl Ives, y'all? I've heard that name before. I'll look him up real quick. I shouldn't. I'm embarrassed that I don't know it off the top of my head. Okay. Yeah, he was, it looks like he was a Yankee singer. Yeah, Burl Ives was born in 1909 in Illinois, according to Wikipedia. So I'll tell you, Snurd, Buckeye Jim is probably what I would call a Yankee fiddle tune. Probably it's a Yankee song, probably, or from Illinois or something. It's Hoosier or Yankee. So that's why I wouldn't know it. But I'll check it out. I mean, I'll look it up and listen to it if you say it's good. It's cool. I mean, I'm just because something is a northern song doesn't mean I'm gonna blow it off. It's just that my primary expertise is early Southern folk music. That's what really gets my gears turning is the early Southern folk music. Okay, I'm gonna go to another older question. I do want to answer some of these questions that were sent in by Patreon members already. Whoa. So Ken says, why are flush fretted banjos not more common? Seems like the best of both worlds. Also, how many tension hooks are enough? Older ones had maybe 10 or 12. Why do new ones have 24? And why do some seem to have 30 or more? Really, are you going to tighten every inch of the banjo head? It's probably a sign of the industrial banjo. So yeah, Ken, okay, so your first question, Ken, why aren't flush fret banjos more popular? I don't know. Like you said, it is the best of both worlds. I think they're getting back in popularity because I think people are going to start demanding them more because right now, fretless is really popular. Well, why not just put flush? I mean, he's talking about a flush fretted banjo. It means it's got fret markers, but they're usually made of bone or hardwood, and they're planed smooth with the fingerboard. So that's we call it, it's a flush fretted banjo. I think they're great. And really the reason they're not more popular is because the fretted banjos are the most popular, they're standard. And then people who want to get more old-timey, like the hippie old-time festival banjo, they get the plain fretless because that's what people like Kyle Creed and Fred Cochran played. They didn't have flush frets. It was just a smooth piece of copper or plastic that they inlaid up there, and they had just a fretless banjo. So that's really the only reason. It's just like stylistic, aesthetic preference. But yeah, I think they should be more popular. They're really cool. It is the best of both worlds, Ken. Okay, we have us another one here. So Tyler is asking me, what's the height on my bridge? And does a taller bridge help keep nylon strings in place better than, say, a 5/8 inch bridge? Well, Tyler, this bridge is actually a 5/8 inch bridge. And traditionally, from 1880 to like 1930, most banjo bridges were only offered in a 1/2 inch height. So this is 5/8. Does a taller bridge? No, ultimately, see what you want, and this gets back to my old hobby horse. I'm talking about neck angle again. On an antique banjo with nylon strings, you want 0 neck angle. You do not want your neck angled back because that lowers the action, okay? You want it to be 0 and have that action high. So your string, your neck is up, and then you use a short bridge. So in truth, the nylon strings actually sound a lot better with the short 1/2 inch bridge. And once you get up to a 11/16 or God forbid a 3/4 inch bridge, you start losing some of that tone on your nylon strings. So it's tricky. It's not an easy answer for me not an easy question for me to answer, Tyler. So Vance says, I was wondering how much banjo head material affects the tone on, and how much do different heads sound better with steel or nylon strings? Okay, yeah. So banjo head material affects their tone a lot. It's one of the things you can do to drastically change the sound of a banjo is to change the type of head, is to put a new head on it. Even if you go from this goat skin to that goat skin, often the 2 goat skin heads will sound completely different because they're different thicknesses and come from a different animal, right? Stuff like that. So head material affects the tone a lot. The worst head material that I've seen is the fiber skins. Fiber skin heads are not great. All they do is muffle your banjo. So if your banjo is really loud and too tingly or something, and you want to muffle it and make it sound old and crummy, then really you should put a skin head on it. But put a fiber skin on it if you want your banjo to sound like hell. The best animal skin material is the calfskin head. A pure white calfskin head sounds the best. If you, anyhow, and then like I said, I do recommend, I'm using only this, the cheap frosted Remo heads from now on. That's what I recommend everybody use. Oh boy. I don't like what I did there. I'm sorry, y'all. Fine tuning. So Vincent Dill gave us $5, and he says, can you recommend any ways to make a modern white lady banjo sound more old-timey? Thank you very much. Vincent, what, can I ask what brand you have? You say it's a modern white lady banjo. Can I ask you what brand that is? So how to make a modern white lady banjo. So I'm assuming you have a modern banjo with a white lady tone ring, either like a gold tone or a Pisgah or something like that. So what you need to do is, so the white lady tone ring was designed for gut strings and a solid one-piece maple bridge. So the first thing you can do to make your white lady banjo sound like it's supposed to sound is put nylon strings on it and get you one of these solid maple bridges from Joel Hooks. I've said that website numerous times on this live stream. I hate to plug it again, but Joel Hooks' website is banjothimble.com, just like a sewing thimble your grandma used to put on her thumb when she sewed. Go to banjothimble.com, get you a solid maple bridge, get you a pack of nylon strings. That is going to improve the sound of your white lady tremendously. And then if you have a fiber skin head on that banjo, get rid of that fiber skin head and put a plain frosted head on it. That's the sound you're looking for. So Gus is asking me to do a quick recap on the filler pull-off trick that I do. So Gus, that's called the double shuffle. I think that's what you're talking about. Get this camera to focus again. So Gus is talking about when I play, for example, he says trouble on my mind. Trouble, trouble, trouble on my mind. If trouble don't kill me, I'll live a long time. Live a long time, boys, live a long time. If trouble don't kill me, I'll live a long time. So what he's talking about is that little roll I do. So all I'm doing there, let's say you're playing on you're in standard G tuning and you're going to play the third string over and over again. All I do is I reach up with my left hand and I pluck the first string open. I took morphine last Saturday night, Lord, I took it in a hell of a way. So Gus, what I'm doing there is it's just like if you're, let's say you're playing the third string over and over again, but you want to do a pull off. So you're doing a pull off over and over again. But the only difference is to get that double shuffle, you pull off on the first string open, usually at the first fret. So instead of doing a pull off like you would normally do on the string you're striking, you do it on the open first string over and over again. That's all I'm doing. But when you speed it up and smooth it out, you get that. Once I had an old banjo, it was strung with twine. Only song it could pick was trouble on my mind. Trouble on my mind, boy, trouble on my mind. If So Gus, I hope that helped you. Dodo gave us 500 rubles. Woo! Hell yeah! 500 rubles, buddy. Well, you live in Russia, Dodo? That's terribly interesting to me. I've been to Bulgaria. That's the closest I ever got to Russia. I went to Bulgaria. I think I was there for 2 months in the summertime in Bulgaria. Sweated my ass off, drank a ton of cheap beer, ate a bunch of really good food in Bulgaria. I really liked Bulgaria. I liked the people. I liked the food. I liked the weather. Bulgaria is a nice country. Okay, Dodo, you're asking me for tabs for Wild Bill Jones or Undone in Sorrow. I have not done Wild Bill Jones yet. I might have a tab for Undone in Sorrow, but you'd have to be on my Patreon group, patreon.com/Clifton Hicks, $2 a month. And I think I have a tab for Undone in Sorrow. Somebody knows, I'm not sure. But I haven't done one for Wild Bill Jones yet. I need to do that. I'm sorry. I've been slacking way hard. I'm trying to go back and put tabs to all those old songs, Dodo. I'm sorry, man. You are on Patreon, Dodo? Okay. Contact me on Patreon, Dodo, because I don't have a pen and paper in front of me right now. If you send me a message on Patreon and you specifically request tabs for Wild Bill Jones and for Undone in Sorrow, I will put it on my list. I will get those out for you. And thank you for being a Patreon member. Thanks a lot. And thanks for the 500 rubles, man. Woo! So Snurd says another $5. Okay, so he's saying, so Snurd is saying that Buckeye Jim could be a heavily corrupted, abstracted old slave song. Okay, cool, man. And that's what they're saying on mudcat.org. I'll go ahead and open it up, Snurd. What are they? Oh, it's a lot of stuff. Well, thank you for that, Snurd. I'm gonna leave this tab up. I'll look at it later. I'm not gonna go through all the mudcat discussion right now. But thank you for that, Snurd. I should have given you $5 for that, buddy. I could play you a little bit of Wild Bill Jones, Dodo. Actually, there's 2 different ways I play Wild Bill Jones. Sometimes I play it in standard GD, GBD, and sometimes mostly I play it in GDG, CD. I learned both versions from George Gibson, and I think those are the 2 best versions ever. Damn. Well, now don't you tell my mama about the bad things I've done. Won't you tell her just to pray for me when I'm swinging on the hangman's tree? That's one of my favorite songs, Dodo. Thank you for reminding me about that. I haven't played that in a while. I love that song. Love that song. Wild Bill Jones, the way I did it on the gourd banjo. How the hell did I play that on the gourd banjo? I think I played it just like that. I'll play the other way that I played it. out on one day, just a rambling holiday, when I met up with that wild Belgian. Somebody asked me to play it the way I did it on the gourd, and I think that's where I threw in, well, I got mixed up in an awful fight, and I fell into the county jail. And the saddest words that I ever heard was when she wouldn't come and go my bail. Some say love is pleasure, Lord, no pleasure do I see. For the gal that I love, as dear as my life, has turned her back on me. That's a real, very rare East Kentucky version of Wild Bill Jones. Here's an interesting question I want to answer. Jake says, how beneficial or necessary is it to take classes to learn to play well? Well, Jake, I never took a single class on playing the banjo. Never once did I take a class or a formal lesson on how to play the banjo. And I think I do pretty well at it. So that'll tell you right there, if you stick with it, if you love the 5-string banjo, if you love our culture, you love our songs and our music, if you love all that shit and you stick with it, you don't need to take a single class. How's that? There's my answer. Whoa, Dodo says he saw the notification for this live stream at a bar in St. Petersburg, Russia, and ran home immediately. That's cool, Dodo. That's cool. Of course, I've never been that far east. St. Petersburg. That's cool. What's the story with that city, man? Didn't when the Soviets took over after World War I, didn't they change the name of St. Petersburg to something else? What is that? Was that Leningrad? I'm so ignorant about your country. But is St. Petersburg one of the cities that did they rename that city Leningrad? Am I wrong about that? And then when the Soviet, it was Leningrad. Okay, thanks, Dodo. Man, that's fascinating. So you live in Leningrad? Whoa. That to me is crazy, because the only thing I really know about Leningrad is the horrible siege that y'all endured during World War II when the Germans invaded and they laid siege to Leningrad as best they could. And the Red Army just beat the shit out of them and trashed them. That's pretty crazy, man. Leningrad, whoa. So St. Petersburg, Russia. So Dodo, you'll find this interesting. One of the towns that I worked in for a long time in Florida, I grew up in Florida in the United States, and one of the towns that I worked in and visited frequently was St. Petersburg, Florida. St. Petersburg, Florida. And I think it was actually founded by Russians who came to Florida and they named their town St. Petersburg. So I don't know, maybe if you're even aware that there's a St. Petersburg in Florida, and I grew up near there, and I've worked there. Pretty crazy, man. So Toady Pants says she likes the rarer version of Wild Bill Jones. I learned that from George Gibson. And if you ask George, if you see George tomorrow and you get him to play the banjo and you say, "Hey George, play Wild Bill Jones for me," that's the one he'll play. That standard G tuning one. He learned that from a guy named Rich Kirby, I think. I think he learned it from Rich Kirby's grandmother. I'm not sure if George learned it directly from the grandmother or if he learned it from Rich Kirby. But we basically get that version from Rich Kirby, and he learned it from his grandmother. It has all these rare verses in it, and it has that rare chorus piece where it goes to C. It's really interesting. Check it out. Oh, Simon is asking me if I play Fred Cockerham's Roustabout. I don't, man. I don't. That's one I need to learn. But you know what I would do? I would probably use Cockerham as one of my sources. But my primary source would be one of the musicians off the Black Banjo Songsters album. I think Dink Roberts played Roustabout, and I want to say John Snipes played Roustabout. And those are my two of my favorite banjoists in the world, black guys, Dink Roberts and John Snipes. And they're definitely probably my two favorite banjoists on that album, Black Banjo Songsters album. I think they both played Roustabout. Those would be my go-to source. But you see, Roustabout is a North Carolina song. It's a damn song. I think they also called it Buffalo. I think it also was called Buffalo or Wild Buffalo, but they mostly call it Roustabout. And it's mostly a North Carolina song. I've never heard anybody, any early recordings of anybody in East Tennessee or East Kentucky or North Georgia or North Alabama play Roustabout. I think it comes from North Carolina. And that's why I've never learned it. I have nothing. I love North Carolina. I lived there many years. I love the music. Riley Bogus, Ward Breeden just said Riley Bogus plays the hell out of it. Riley does a great version. But Riley is a North Carolinian. And pretty much most of my music I learned from Ernie Williams, and Ernie Williams is from Sand Mountain, Alabama. And then most everything I learned from George Gibson, and George Gibson is from Knott County, Kentucky. And now I live in East Tennessee and North Georgia, and I'm really very interested in East Tennessee and North Georgia banjo music. And I don't know of any versions of Roustabout from those areas outside of North Carolina. But that's a beautiful tune. I should pick it up and play that. Blaine is asking if there's any films about the siege of Leningrad. Of course. I don't think there's any American films about the siege of Leningrad, but there were Soviet. I know there's a Soviet film about the siege of Leningrad, and I think it's a really epic film. Dodo is the one. Hopefully Dodo will answer. But I think the Soviets, I think right after World War II, or maybe in the 60s or something, they made an epic film about the siege of Leningrad. I'm pretty sure. So John Lozer asked me if I know Rainbow Connection. I've never heard of Rainbow Connection. Doesn't sound very old to me. And Simon says, U.S. foreigners don't know the differences between U.S. states. That's true. If you go to Germany, or especially if you go to Bulgaria, and you tell somebody you're from Georgia, they're like, Georgia, that's a country right over here. So you tell them you're from Florida, and they're like, Florida. Most foreigners only seem to know, they know California, they know Texas, and they know New York. And that's about it. Maybe they might know Mississippi, but usually they can't even pronounce Mississippi, right? But they know Texas, they know New York, they know California. And interesting too, I was in the Army, almost everybody in the Army is from Texas, California, or New York. I met almost nobody from Florida. I met almost nobody from Georgia. Almost nobody from South Carolina. Everybody in the Army is from California, Texas, or New York. What's up with that? Oh, so I don't know how to pronounce your name. Guillaume in France. Guillaume. Damn, I don't know how to pronounce that. Guillaume. I'm sorry, man. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but he says, hello, Cliff. I love the job you're doing. I like Morgan Sexton's version of Little Birdie. Any idea of how he's tuning and how he plays that song? Yes, Guillaume. I know how he's tuned. So the tuning is E, C, G, A, D, and I'll go there now for you. It's called Little Birdie tuning. Little birdie, what makes you fly so high? Don't you know, little birdie, that life will pass you by? The way I learned to play Little Birdie, I know Morgan Sexton, I think he two-finger picks that song. I learned to play it up picking from George Gibson. Used to be a little boy, I played down in the sand. I am a great big boy, Lord, it's hard to be a man. I was trying to play it more like Morgan Sexton here. He plays it a little more jumpier than I do. He goes... But so, Guy, can I just call you Guy? I think that's where we get the name Guy from. So, Guy, the tuning for Little Birdie is E, C, G, A, D. And you play it using a little special chord. You put your index finger on the first string at the second fret, and put your ring finger on the second string at the third fret. And that is the little chord that Little Birdie is played out of. And guy, if you look up on my YouTube channel, Clifton Hicks and Little Birdie, you will see lots of recordings I've done, and I even did a lesson on Little Birdie. I think it's just called Little Birdie Banjo Lesson. And so I'll teach you how to do that. I need to do a tab for Little Birdie because that's actually it's a very hard song to play, actually, Little Birdie. I mean, it's not really, but it's because it's in an odd tuning, and you do an unusual Little birdie, little birdie, what makes you fly so high? That's a great song. Oh, we got some super chats. Dodo is coming hard with those 500 rubles. You must have been drunk. You must be drunk, Dodo, giving me too much money. So Raphael gives us $50 and says, "Hi, Cliff. How about Doc Boggs? I'd love to hear you play Oh Death." Oh Death is one I get a lot of requests for. When I was a kid, I used to sing it, and I've never actually learned to play it on the banjo. I need to do it. I think Doc Boggs played it out of that minstrel tuning, GCG BD, but I have it on my list. I don't know how to play it, Raphael. I'm sorry, but I will soon. I'm going to have to learn that one and teach y'all how to play it. So SW asks, what happened to the Pisgah you had a while back? He says, I had a Pisgah Dobson Rambler, but ended up selling it for various reasons. I did the same thing, SW. I sold my Pisgah. It was a good banjo, nothing wrong with it. It was just not what I want. I realized when I bought that, I was excited. I liked it. It was a good banjo, but I realized that I have to play antique banjos. I don't know of anybody who's making a modern banjo that I could afford to buy that I like and would actually want to play for my personal use. So I sold my Pisgah not for just because I was being just my personal nitpicky reasons. I want to play with nylon strings, and I have to have a banjo that has no neck angle in the neck. So I can only really play antique banjos the way that I play for what I want to do. So for that reason, I sold my Pisgah, and that's what good thing about a Pisgah is it's easy to sell. If you realize you want something different or whatever, once you buy it, you can sell those pretty quick because they're in high demand. They are good. They're good banjos. They are modern banjos. It's not an antique banjo. They're very different from an antique banjo. So that's why I sold mine, because I have to play. I just much prefer antiques. Like, this 1888 Luscombe is what I play. And I've played this same banjo since I was 16 years old. So this is really my banjo. This is the banjo for me that I like more than other banjos that I've ever had. Alan says, can you play and talk about Hold On? It's also called Gospel Plow. So I got to retune. Thanks for the $5, Alan. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Play Gospel Plow. Hold on. Woo! Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all my prophets dead and gone. Keep your hand on the plow. Hold on. Hold on, keep your
hand on the plow, keep your hand on the plow, keep your eye on the prize, hold on. Hold on, hold on, keep your hand on the plow, hold on. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all my prophets dead and gone. Keep your hand on the plow, hold on. Mary's legs bound in chain, every link had Jesus' name. Keep your hand on the plow, hold on. Hold on, hold on, keep your eye on the prize, hold on.
So Hold On, also called Plow, that's a really old song. It's probably almost certainly, definitely an old black song, a slave song, probably. Old gospel spiritual song. And my understanding is that it got popularized in the 1950s and definitely in the 60s during the big civil rights movement. So people would march in the streets back when they used to actually, when a peaceful protest was actually a peaceful protest, for the most part. They used to march in the streets and sing those songs back when protesters could actually sing worth a damn. And it's a beautiful song, and they used to sing that. And so I think that's how it got popular. But then it's also because it was also in the white repertoire too, the Southern Appalachian repertoire. People, string bands played it and stuff. It was a common gospel song across the South, I believe. And then I add in that little part about keep your eye on the prize, because that's another song from the civil rights period that I really like. And so I like to switch it up. So I keep my hand on the plow and then keep your eye on the prize. And I think it has a great message, especially during these trying times that we're going through. I just think it's a great song. I don't know what else to say about it, Alan. I played it a little sloppy there because I haven't played it in a long time. So yeah, Landon says he's getting his Deering Good Time banjo in the mail Tuesday. I think I mentioned it already. Yeah, that should be a good banjo for you, Landon. Deering Good Time is a good steel string, modern, old-time banjo. And I had a Deering Good Time actually when I was in the Army in Iraq. I don't know if you know this, Landon, but in 2004, when we started getting mail and when we were deployed to the war, I actually ordered a Deering Good Time banjo, and I think it cost me like $390 back then in '04. Cheap. They're like double that now, right? And they actually, I didn't even think it would actually arrive. It actually showed up in one piece in Iraq, and I was living on a tank, an M1 Abrams tank at the time. And that banjo got thrown in the bustle rack. It got thrown in the back of trucks, backs of Humvees. I actually carried that 5-string banjo through the rest of my participation in that war, which is pretty crazy to think. I may have been the first guy to ever play a 5-string banjo in Iraq. Can't prove it, but I don't know who would have had a banjo out there before me. So look it up. I'm making that claim. I was the first person to play the 5-string banjo in Iraq. I don't know if that's true or not, but I could have been. So Beck says, hi Clifton, do you have any information on the history of the 6-string guitar banjo? The earliest example I can find is an S.S. Stewart model from a 1906 Wurlitzer catalog. That sounds about right. I honestly, Beck, I think the first people who started making 6-string guitar banjos may have been people in England as early as the 1860s, 1870s. English, when the banjo, the 5-string banjo was introduced in England, I want to say about 1840 by Joel Sweeney. That's actually one thing they say about Joel Sweeney that's actually true. Most of what they say about Sweeney is bullshit. But one thing that's actually true about Joel Sweeney is he did introduce the 5-string banjo to England. And then he left. And then people started making them, but they didn't really know how to make them, I guess. So there was a lot there early on. There were 6-string. There were banjos that had 5 up here and one short one that was 6-string. Not quite a true guitar banjo. So I see what you mean, Beck. It's tricky. In England, starting about 1870, they were making 6 and 7-string banjos, but they usually had a short thumb string. So I'm not sure if the English were the first to make a true guitar banjo or if it happened on this side of the Atlantic later on. I think that they were out before 1906. I think that they probably by 1895, Stewart was probably making a guitar banjo by 1895, probably, if I had to guess. So Woot says, that's an epic story about your good time banjo that you carried in Iraq. Do you still own it? No, I don't. Tragically, that banjo was destroyed in a car wreck. I had it in the trunk of the car, and we got rear-ended, and that banjo got broken in that accident. So for that reason, I would never put this banjo in the trunk of a car. Never. I always put it in the case in the back seat. That way, the airbag can't break it. If you put a banjo in the front seat, the airbag could break it. And if you put it in the trunk, you could get rear-ended and you could lose your banjo that way. So the best way to travel with a banjo is in a case in the back seat. And what I'll do if I'm going to be on a long trip, I'll actually put this 2 seat belts. I'll weave them through the handle and stuff, and I'll put seat belts on my banjo in a case in the back seat. That's the best way. And I've actually totaled a car later, or actually before that banjo was destroyed. I totaled a hatchback Honda, and I had my banjo in that totaled Honda, but it was in a case in the back seat, seat belted down. And so I didn't get hurt, and the banjo didn't get hurt. And that was right when I came home from the Army in like 2006. I was going way too fast on a country road in Darien, Georgia, and I slammed into the back of a fucking parked Tahoe or a Suburban. I think it was a Suburban, and totaled my little Honda. Anyhow. So Michael says he just ordered Foxfire 3. That's the banjo building Foxfire book. And asks me if there's anything I wish I knew before I started building my first banjo. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you about that. The one thing that I will tell you is don't worry about neck angle. Do not try to put neck angle in that banjo. I keep talking about neck angle. It's a pet peeve of mine, but don't worry about angling the neck on your mountain banjo. Keep it flat like this one is. That's one thing. Don't worry about neck angle. One thing I wish I knew, I don't know, man. The one thing before, when you're carving your neck, when you're carving your peg head, this will help you a lot actually. Go ahead and cut and ream out your tapered holes for your tuning pegs. Do that before you finish cutting out your peg head. Because if you cut out your peg head first and you get it all plain, smooth how you want it, and then you go to drill your peg holes in it and ream them out, the wood will tear and splinter and chip every time. So one trick is to drill all your peg holes, get your neck roughed out, and then when you know where your peg holes are going to be, as soon as you know exactly where your peg holes are going to be, go ahead and drill all 5 of your peg holes first before you finish smoothing out your neck. That's a really important tip. That's not in Foxfire, and nobody ever told me that. I wish I would have known that. Okay. I'm just looking at the clock, everybody. We've been going for 2 hours and 17 minutes. I'm satisfied. I think this has been a pretty good live stream. And if y'all have no more questions for me, if you can let it rest for another couple weeks or whatever, I think we'll close this live stream out. Does anybody have any one more question, maybe? Anything? Wow, thanks a lot. People are sending in super chats just saying thank you. Thank you, Alan, very much. Thank you, Toady Pants. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. If everybody, before we leave, are on your way out, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Find us on patreon.com/Clifton Hicks. And the best thing you can do is share this live stream with some friends of yours. Copy that link, put it up on Facebook and whatever social media you use. Email it to somebody. That would help me a lot. Thanks for all the super chats, y'all. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to close it out. I need to feed my dogs. Oh, one more thing before I go. Product placement. Before I go, I am selling T-shirts now. So here's one type of T-shirt. This one's going to our friend Ninky. I'm going to mail it out to her soon. So you can get, this is one example. And then the other T-shirt I'm selling has this across the chest. So you can find these T-shirts. I've got them for sale. You can find the link in the description of this video. So you can get a T-shirt that has, good Lord, that has this across the chest. This is from an old 1850s minstrel manual, the banjo instructor, or you can get the, whichever one, the outlaw old time music. So that link is in there. They're 25 bucks, unfortunately. I wish they were cheaper, I'm sorry, but they are good quality, 100% cotton shirts. You can get long sleeve, you can get tank tops. Ladies, I've got a ladies, you can get a ladies shirt. So, okay, that'd be great. I'm going to close it out. I got to feed my dogs, y'all. So thanks, everybody, for looking. We're going to close it out. Have a good one. I hope everybody is safe out there and nobody's sick. All right. Thanks, y'all. Goodbye.